Welcome Flyffers. So many people have been struggling to choose a class for Flyff Universe for the upcoming release, and that's why I will make an 8-video mini-series that takes a look at every class and what are their amazing features and what are their downsides. So you have a base to decide on for the release. Let's get right started. So we will start with the positive aspects of the plate and then lead into the negatives ones. So in the end you can make a decision if plate is the class for you to go or not. And when we're talking about plate, the first thing that comes in our mind is that he's the highest DPS dealer in PvE. Based on some footage from Discord official, he was dealing about around 40k DPS at the moment on average, which is the highest value. So that's definitely one of his biggest strengths. Also another one is they reworked the silent strike skill and gave him an amazing gap closer for PvP, because now you can actually jump onto people by range and start fighting with your melee attacks. Really huge advantage for PvP. In PvE it's a small advantage because you can jump to a mob rather than walking, which will give you a slight speed increase in leveling, but it's nothing minor. As well, we are staying at PvP, and in Flyff it's like that the blade is wearing 2 axes, and his second hand, also called offhand, is doing 80% more damage than his first hand. And this irregular damage is making it really hard for unexperienced players to heal against it in PvP. Because you will deal like 10k, then you will deal 20k, then you deal 8k and maybe 26k. And people have a hard time adjusting to those different numbers while they have all their food going. So that's why it's really good. And other than that, it's also dealing nice DPS in PvP, of course. Also, another PvP feature is the sneaker. It's definitely one of the best range CCs in PvP. It will not stun the target, but it will reduce its speed to 0, so you have the chance to catch up to it. It can be removed with a Scroll of Holy, but even though the person needs to use it, the actual disadvantage for the person is always there, because you will have at least the time he needs to react to press the Holy Scroll, so it's definitely always worth using. Now there's something that's really valuable in PvE and PvP, and it's called Hawk Attack. It's amazing for giant hunting because you will make giants miss every second hit, which will allow you to heal against their attacks. It's really strong. And in PvP, of course, against every class that's dealing on-hit damage, you will cast Hawk Attack, and if you hit the Hawk Attack, you will most likely also win the 1v1 if your gear is equal. A really strong skill. And the last part about plate that's amazing. Plate is the class with the best dex ratio. This means with the best dex block per dex ratio in game. This means when you want to AoE with the plate, you can just go dex. You will get so much block that the mobs will almost never hit you. And on top of that, your AoE skill Plate Dance is also scaling on dex. So basically you're skilling defense, but you're increasing your damage, which is amazing. And of course, block rate against any on-hit classes is also amazing in PvP. You just need to figure out what's the best ratio for you to go, because you can't sacrifice all your stats into dex if you want to play PvP. Because you need like flat HP to tank ASOL or Hop or whatever. Now let's come to the downsides. Plate is the second most popular class based on the poll in Discord. I excluded the ringmasters here in this statistics because I think many people didn't realize the actual thought behind this poll, because the poll was only asking for main classes, and I doubt that many people will play ringmaster main. I think they just choose the class they want to play and just choose a ringmaster as well, because they want to make their own FS ringmaster. So it's the second most popular class, which means the weapons will be really, really expensive. And then you're a plate, so this means you need two weapons. So you're buying really expensive weapons twice. That's basically why, yeah. If you want to go plate, you need to have a huge budget. And another reason why it's so expensive, it's since we already know it's the best PvE damage class. This means it's like usually the most popular class around around solo PvE players as well, and you will have to compete with them all the time. While you, as a PvP player, you have to spend your funds in damage gear and tank gear. They will only spend into damage gear, and can easily outbid you. And one of the most annoying things if you're playing a class that is melee, your enemies can block, and it feels annoying and really frustrating if you only see the block, 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 and no get damage is going through. And yeah, you have to deal with it, you have to learn it, you have to know exactly when to attack, for example, in PvP, and which classes you might want to attack first or farm out in Siege first that have low melee block compared to ones like, for example, a Jester that has with perfect block 20 additional melee block you have to fight against. So make sure you choose your targets wisely. Also, when we are looking at Guild Siege, you need to connect to a player. So this green circle, this is us, and the red circle is our enemy. The enemy is going to the left side. So on classes like Jester, for example, we could use Fast Walker, we are faster than him, just catch up, use Hop, kill him. Just we can't do that on a plate. On a plate we would actually need to go the long way around, cutting him off directly into this direction, and once we connect we will get 3 to 4 hits off no matter how fast he's running away. This is our benefit. And our other option would be using like a sneaker comp to catch up, but this depends on the space that is in between. So if there's a huge space, don't try to chase people, always try to cut off and learn to strategically move in the Guild Siege arena. Yeah, another con is if you want to get your switch going in PvP on other classes, let's say for a knight for example, you can switch from the damage X to a tank X, for example, with one click. It's really easy, but for a plate, since he's wearing two weapons, and when you have both weapons equipped, and you would change just one tank X, for example, it would only change the offhand. If you want to equip another tank X, it would just change the offhand again, so you're left with one damage X and one offhand X. That's why you always need to de-equip both damage X's and then equip both HP X's, which will result in a slightly slower switch. That is, it's not that important overall, but if you're in 1v1 situations and someone then has basically the same ping as you and is playing like another on-hit class, like a one-on-one BP for example, this can make a difference. And yeah, one of the biggest downsides is probably, I don't think any class will have not every class will have a hard time hitting 100% attack speed, but since Blade has no attack speed on his gear, like at least on his end gear, he requires a ringmaster that is using permanent GT for the attack speed bonus, so he gets the 100 attack speed and then can unlock his full one-on-one potential. And the other option would be going like high amounts of dex and not going into STR to reach the 100 attack speed. And this might make sense for bosses where you have long times of DPSing, but it's not good for leveling because you sacrifice too much damage, so that's why you definitely need a ringmaster to level. And then there's the skill Berserker, which will give you a really good boost in damage because the 280 is additional damage which scales really well on the plate, as well as an attack speed boost. But the downside of the skill is you will not be able to cast any other skills afterwards until it's run down, and it's lasting for 35 seconds. So you have to use it really wisely, you have to know exactly when to press it and when not, and yeah, you have to always check if it's more valuable to do it or like rather try to use a CC spell or something else to defend yourself. And now that's the last question. Is Blade your way to victory? Let me know in the comments if you're going to pick Blade.